All right, now when you see this picture, what comes to your imagination? Yes, this is a symbol of the United States military. Now, why is a military so essential to an earthly power? Because it is by the force of arms that you enforce your power. You enforce your power. So in Revelation 13, when it talks about the two-horned beast, the second beast is going to prop up the first beast. By what means do you think that the second beast is going to use in order to give power back to the first beast? By means of its military. Does that make sense? You see, this is how the Catholic Church functioned in the Middle Ages. They didn't have their own army, but they used the armies of the states of Western Europe in order to do their bidding. Anybody ever heard of the Crusades? Yes, this was an example of this fact. All right, this is a man by the name of Eric Edstrom. He was a U.S. officer during this idea of the war on terror. Notice what he says about his time in the army. Now, is war a very glamorous thing? And it is so sad that so many of our young people are being brainwashed by playing video games like Call of Duty, being made to believe that war and bloodshed is something to be coveted. This says the U.S. government sent me to Afghanistan at the age of 23. Now, is that a ripe old age? No, it's not. He says, I endangered and hurt many. I lived in mud shacks and trod dirt roads for IEDs. I wasted a lot of taxpayer money. The Afghans I met either didn't want us there or wanted us to stay long enough to relieve us of our money. And it is so sad. I was actually just watching a small documentary on some of the war crimes of the U.S. Army over in Afghanistan. I mean, some of the demonic things that were practiced are even beyond description. This says taxpayer dollars that the military was aching to spend on exorbitant military contracts, knowingly lining the pockets of warlords guilty of human rights what? Now, mind you, who's writing all of this? This is a soldier. On the ground, the war felt mostly dubious, illegal in scope, and unjust in terms of proportionality. Many of my friends died or became permanently handicapped. Now, does anybody know what is the suicide rate amongst American veterans? They say that at least 20 veterans commit suicide every single day in the United States. Can you imagine? And it's so much to the point that the United States government does not even want to give them benefits. Lord have mercy. This says, I personally buried one of my West Point classmates in Arlington National Cemetery, handing the folded flag to his crying mother. Another one of my soldiers killed himself after returning home. One of my soldiers is serving life in prison after murdering and dismembering the body of someone whom he never knew in a bathtub in Oregon. These are the real world consequences of these foolish and illegal wars. Do you think that God needs to bring an end to this level of debauchery? Yes, he does. Now, this is a man by the name of Smedley Butler. He wrote a very influential volume called War is a Racket. Notice what the man said. War is a racket. It always has been. Now, when he says racket, what is that referring to? Yes, it's merely a money laundering operation. War is a racket. It is possibly the oldest, easily the most profitable, surely the most vicious. It is the only one international in scope. It is the only one in which the profits are reckoned in dollars and the losses in what? And the losses in human lives. I wish we had time to go through all these details, but unfortunately, we're a little pressed for time, so I'm going to have to skip past some of the details. I'm just going to read this very quickly. It says, I spent 33 years and 4 months in active military service. I spent most of my time as a high-class muscle man for what? Big business. I helped make Mexico and especially Tampico safe for American what? You see, one of the main reasons, if not the reason why South America is so destabilized and you have so many people flooding into the United States is because the American government has systematically destabilized that region. And as a result of that, these people are trying to escape to find a better life. This says in China in 1927, I helped to see to it that Standard Oil went on its way unmolested. The war in Afghanistan was a scam. We're going to skip past this. Man, again, by the name of Anthony C. Sutton, talks about all of the oil that is in the world today. Now, this is a symbol of something called the Taliban. Anybody ever heard of the Taliban? Yes. Notice, this is from CNN Business. The Taliban are sitting on $1 trillion worth of minerals the world desperately needs. So I wonder why we went into Afghanistan. Was it to spread freedom and democracy? No, it was for oil and natural resources. Are we going to skip past? Again, Avro Manhattan, notice what he says. Big business, the promoter of practically all subsequent North American aggressions. So what is the main reason why the United States government goes to war? It is for money. Now, has this always been practiced by tyrannical governments? Yes, it has. But for some reason, we think the United States is the exception. This says the most persistent destroyers of the civil liberties of the what? Now, when the 9/11 attacks happened, what laws were passed by the U.S. government that greatly helped to curtail American civil liberties? Has anybody ever heard of something called the Patriot Act? Now, was the Patriot Act put into place in order to protect U.S. citizens? No, it wasn't. All right, we're going to skip past. This is a book called Devil's Game, How the United States Helped to Unleash Fundamentalist Islam. If we had the time, we would talk about how this book documents that much of the terrorism that we are fighting today, the United States actually helped to create. Are we going to skip past this? Are we going to skip past this? Notice this is from a book called To Kill a Nation. The U.S. media, as with most of the news media in other Western nations, are not free and independent. They are owned and controlled by largely what? Conservative corporate cartels. The goal of these political economic elites is to transform the world into a what? Now, does the Bible say the same thing? Again, Satan needs a global economy so that he can force people to not buy or sell unless they have the mark of the beast. Does that make sense? And the news media is helping to fuel these principles. All right, does anybody know who this was or is? Yes, man by the name of Julian Assange, very brilliant investigative journalist. Notice what he says about the war in Afghanistan. This says the goal is to use Afghanistan to wash money out of the tax bases of the U.S. and Europe through Afghanistan and back into the hands of transnational security elite. The goal is an endless war, not a what? Not a successful war. So was the purpose to actually win the war? No, it wasn't. It was merely a money laundering operation.